Hi everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com and today I'm interviewing Boyd Morrison. Boyd is the author of the Tyler Locke action-adventure thrillers as well as two standalone novels. His latest book, The Roswell Conspiracy, is out now, and Boyd is also a professional actor and a Jeopardy champion. So welcome, Boyd.
Great to be here.
Sorry to get you up so early.
Oh, it's not that early. If you wanted to do this at 6 a.m., we'd have a problem.
Exactly. So let's start by you telling us a bit more about how you became an author.
Well, I had been an engineer by training, and I had taken a science fiction writing course and thought I might want to try writing a novel. And around that time, my wife had decided she wanted to go to medical school. So we made a deal that I would put her through 9 years of pre-med, med school, and residency. And then when she was a full-time doctor, I would get to quit my job and try writing full-time to become a published author. And I would get 9 years to do that as well.
Wow.
And so when she finished all of her training, I left my job at Microsoft and became a full-time writer. And got published in 4.5 years.
So, given that we both like travel and adventure, and reading your latest book, sort of the Queenstown jet boat adventure, which we've both been on, very exciting. So, tell us a bit more about how much of you goes into Tyler Locke, your hero.
Well, I'm an engineer by background, and we're about the same height, but that's about the extent of our commonality. I wanted to make a engineering hero as Indiana Jones made an archaeology hero. Before Indiana Jones came along, archaeologists were considered stuffy, bent over a dusty quadrant, picking apart things with a toothbrush, and Indiana Jones made them cool.
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted to do the same with engineers, because most people's picture of an engineer is Dilbert and, the nerdy kind of guy. But I think people don't realize that a lot of the most adventurous people in history were engineers. Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, was an engineer. So was Buzz Aldrin. He was a mechanical engineer. And so I wanted to kind of delve into that, but what I also come from a family of engineers. My brother is an aerospace engineer. My father was a chemical engineer, and I didn't realize until I think I was writing book 3 in the series that Tyler Locke is really my dad. He fought in World War II in the 20th Armored Division. He went to MIT, like Tyler. He's a former Army combat engineer, so he was in the Army, and that's how he got the adventuring skills that he uses a lot of. And he went to MIT, and he had, my father was a chief engineer, and so is Tyler. So I really didn't realize until later that I was just making my father the hero, which was kind of cool to realize. I mean,
yeah,
I think
that's lovely.
Those guys want to, look up to their dad like that. And he died when I was 10. So, maybe subconsciously this is my way of, connecting with him again. I don't know. But Tyler is much more swashbuckling and has a lot more sang-froid than I would in these kinds of situations, because he's a bomb disposal expert, needs those calm nerves, and I would just be a wreck. If I were in any of the situations he's in, I would probably, just go run screaming or something.
But what about the places in your books? Because Tyler gets to go all over the world, and how is that from your experience?
Well, I have traveled quite a bit for some of my research. As you mentioned in the latest book, Roswell Conspiracy, there's a chase on the jet boats in Queenstown, and I did that a few years ago and thought, oh, this would be, when you're a writer, you're constantly thinking, oh, how can I use this in a book?
Yeah.
And so when I rode the jet boats, I thought, oh, this is cool. I've got to use this somehow. And I also climbed the Sydney Harbour Bridge in Sydney, and I ended up using that in a scene in the book. So it's partly just cool things that I've been able to do in my life that I want to include, and partly an excuse to go do research that I know I want to include in the book. So for the Midas Code, there's a scene where Tyler is on the Autobahn in a Ferrari 458 Italia being chased by two bad guys in a Lamborghini and another sports car. And so I thought, to make sure I get the proper research done, I had to go to Germany and actually drive on the Autobahn. So I rented an Audi and got up to 150 miles an hour on the Autobahn.
That's awesome.
Just because I'm that dedicated to my reading.
And I actually think that we partly become thriller writers so that we can start having tax-deductible holidays in awesome places. So did you actually make it to Easter Island?
I did. I had not been to Easter Island, and so that's where Google and the internet come in to give me a lot of info that I couldn't get otherwise. So, I don't know how people could write thrillers before Google Maps.
Yeah.
It's been such a big help in plotting out how long it takes. I mean, just simple things like how long it takes to get from one place to another. Seeing photos of places I've never been so I can describe it in detail, reading blogs and seeing pictures that people post of their holidays to these places. So, I put all of that together, and then, I make up some of the stuff, but hopefully there's enough accurate detail in there so if people have actually been to these places, they recognize them as real.
No, absolutely. I'm the same as well. YouTube is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
For getting little random and people put their holiday videos on there now, which is fantastic. So
right.
Yeah, I really don't, like you say. I mean, Clive Cussler, for example, all those years ago when he started writing, how on earth did he manage?
Yeah, well, he's a pretty adventurous guy too. So I think he probably went to a lot of places, interviewed people. That's another thing that I do is talk to people who are experts in their fields and people who've been to places, so that I can get some details that may not be on the web.
And what about writing fight scenes? Because when we were at Thriller Fest, I went to one of the workshops there, and they actually had, the bodyguard, and they had the Marine showing us how to do some fight things. But how do you write your fight scenes? Is that just from your head, or do you have fight experience?
No, I don't have any fight experience. I think, like most people, my fight experience comes from watching, TV and movies, and also seeing the seminars like you have to figure out what's real and what's not. I mean, I try to make them as realistic as possible. So my fight scenes don't go on for 10 minutes, usually like they do in the movies, because if you've ever done any kind of exertion, these guys are just exhausted after just a few seconds of doing this. And not only that, but they're completely battered. I always find it funny when the movies, show this big fight scene, and then the next scene later, they don't have a scratch or a bruise on them, but they've just been pounded by the other guy. And it's just not realistic. So I try to make that as real as possible. And I think also for movies or TV, having a long fight scene, it can be exciting. But I think in a book, it can get tedious after a while, because all you're just doing is describing which punch is thrown there. And so I think raising the stakes in the book is more important than describing the fight scene in detail. If he doesn't land this blow, he's the bad guy is going to shoot his girlfriend. And so you've got to, make there be consequences if the fight scene doesn't go the way that the hero wants it to.
No, absolutely. Now, I also wanted to ask you about scuba diving because I'm a massive scuba diving fan, and I wanted to get your best dive recommendation.
My two favorite are the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, just
Hmm.
for the biodiversity that's down there, and the groupers and the giant clams, and just all of the interesting creatures that are there, including a lot of deadly ones like sea snakes and stonefish and ring and the stinger jellyfish. The other one that I really loved was St. Lucia in the Caribbean.
Oh, nice.
One of my favorite dives ever was along a cliff face off the shore that went straight down into the water. And when you're swimming along the cliff underwater, you couldn't see the bottom, but you could see the cliff face. And so it really felt like you were just floating along this cliff out in the middle of the sky. And so that was one of my favorite experiences.
That's awesome. Well, when you're next in Australia, you have to go to the west coast and do Ningaloo Reef, which is
Okay.
awesome. I think better than the Barrier Reef.
Really?
So yeah, and very few people go there. So that's
Yeah.
probably that'd be my top tip. And I reckon maybe we should, when we're massively rich and famous, organise, like a thrillers scuba diving trip.
Yeah. Well, Jim Rollins is a big scuba diver
Yeah,
too.
well, so many thriller writers are. So, and maybe we can get Clive Cussler to come along.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That would be so
That's a
awesome.
great idea. You should get that together. I will definitely go.
Yeah, that would be because those guys all go off to the Afghanistan and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they get a lot of protection when they go. So,
Right, okay, so tell us about the Roswell Conspiracy. Who's going to enjoy it? What's the book about? And where can people find you?
well, it's the third book in the Tyler Locke series. It's a action adventure, like an Indiana Jones, fast paced. And in this book, Tyler Locke, the engineer, and his friend Grant Westfield are in New Zealand doing a project, and they get a call from a 75-year-old woman who wants to show them her piece of wreckage from the Roswell incident. And they go thinking, well, we're just doing this as a favor. And when they get there, they find that she's being assaulted by two gunmen. And they get away and realize that there really is something to her story. And they are taken on a quest around the world trying to find out why a rogue Russian spy is after this piece of wreckage, and what he plans to use it for is an attack on the U.S. And so they have to stop him within 5 days, or he's going to completely decimate the country.
It's an awesome book, and I highly recommend it to people. I also think it could be a standalone, as in people don't need to have read the other books.
No, and I write all the books in the series that way, so you can jump in at any of the books and not feel like you're lost at all.
Mm.
But if you've read the other two, then you get a little more idea of how the characters, the recurring characters, are progressing. And this book is out again with Little Brown in the UK and Australia, and it's on Kindle, iBooks, Kobo, and Nook in the US.
Yeah, so where can people find you online?
BoydMorrison.com. I also have a Facebook fan page and Twitter feed that you can get to from my homepage. So yeah, come on to my homepage, and or you can just email me. It's Boyd at BoydMorrison.com, and I'd love to hear from anybody.
Fantastic. Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Boyd. That was great.
Well, thanks, Joanna. It was a pleasure.